Hello boys and girls, Lord Hawkeye here again. As you expect, I debate a lot of people online about my views, and you very quickly have to learn when to give up on many of them. There's just not enough hours in the day to save the ones who don't want to be saved. However, I'm highlighting a particular one here because, well, it's just such a shining example of everything that makes the anti-gun lobby so utterly thoughtless and despicable that I decided that I'm going to use it in a little thought experiment of mine. Before we start, let me just state for the record that I do not have a personal stake in this debate. I am not a U.S. citizen, I do not have a gun, I don't wish to. So anyone thinking of pouncing on the comment section with accusations of bias or ulterior motives, don't bother. Seriously. The link's in the bottom if you want to check it out yourself. It's the posts by a user by the name of Jesse. I think I got that right. It's the usual dance you get from their types, incorrectly thinking that correlation equals causation, but only when the correlation fits their dogma, of course. Refusal to read sources that contradict their claims, and of course the ever-popular theory that the ad hominem somehow has come full circle and become a valid argument. Side note, it hasn't. But that's not to say there's nothing to learn from the experience. It's quite clear that no study I could show this individual would sway her. Everything I showed her would be hand-wave as bias or right-wing conspiracies, since being a conspiracy theorist automatically makes you wrong because... So, what do you do when confronted by these sorts? Well, as I always say, if you can't push, pull. Let's let her have all the arguments. Yeah, really. Let's assume everything she says is absolutely true. We're going to give her the best handicap we can and still show that she's wrong anyway. Sound too good to be true? Watch and learn, boys and girls. Okay, so what are the main premises of her argument? 1, that correlation does mean causation. 2, that there is a clear and proven correlation between gun ownership and violence. And 3, that if there is a correlation between something and violence, it is morally justified. In fact, it is a moral imperative that this element be removed from society, by force if necessary, because the ends justify the means if it results in great benefit to anybody, whatever that means. Nice vague term. That's straight from the horse's mouth. I am not straw manning. See? Anyway, let's say all these things are absolutely true. Not going to fight her on that. So, what are the implications then? Well, let's think about this. Household gun accidents. These are very frequently cited as one of the main reasons to ban or restrict guns. Okay, no problem then. You know what's statistically even more dangerous? Swimming pools. They kill far more children than household pools. And really, if we don't need guns, then we really don't need swimming pools. So, everyone with a swimming pool, sorry, but it's got to go. All for the sake of safety, of course. Cars? Road rage is a serious problem in these days, as is street racing, drunk driving, speeding, the list goes on. In fact, over 100 people a day die in car collisions. That's even more than the guns. So alright, sorry everybody, you're going to have to turn in your cars. Everyone has to get around by public transit so that the government can keep you safe. Yeah, it's inconvenient, yeah, it sucks, but it would save lives and that's what matters, right? Oh yes, did you know that blacks and other minorities statistically commit more violent crimes than whites? Well, we can't have that. Sure, we could study them and find out what exactly the social cause is, but no, we got no time for that. Lives are at stake. So, all the non-whites must be deported immediately, all for the greater good, right? Now you might respond by saying, oh, come on, that's just silly. You can't go around banning everything just because it might hurt someone someday. And defenders of such policies would respond by saying, don't you care about people's lives? Why do you have to be so selfish as swimming pool obsessed redneck? Now you tell me, on a scale of 1 to 10, how ridiculous is that? But Hawkeye, the sheep cry at me, guns only exist to kill people. That's why they need to be banned. Really? Then why do you support the police and military having them? Because they need them to protect people? Ah, there you go. You just answered your own question. Thanks for the hand. Folks, whether you like it or not, there are people lots of people who owe their lives to the fact that they had a gun at the ready to protect themselves and others from danger, and calling the cops simply was not an option for them. Whether you personally like guns or not, there are people who wouldn't be with us today if they had been denied the right to own weapons. There are also many who have suffered losses, even the ultimate one, who might have had a chance if they were permitted to carry arms. You cannot dismiss these facts as unimportant and claim to value human life. It is admirable to want to end violence, but that is a problem that requires deep and honest study and introspection, not rash, emotion-driven law-mongering that you can't possibly see the consequences of. And really, have recent events not taught you anything? The 2 killers in Boston managed to kill 3 people and injure more using pressure cookers. Who could possibly have seen that coming? And never forget, the worst mass murder in U.S. history, 9/11 obviously, was committed without guns. It also can't be denied. Anyone on that plane who had a gun could have stopped those maniacs. Surely that's something worth considering, no? Even if you proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that a gun ban would have prevented some horrible murder from happening, that finding would be entirely meaningless because the deed is already done, and there's no telling what the next one is going to employ to commit his evil deeds. You can't predict the actions of a madman. That is precisely why he is a madman. It is frustrating, but it's true. Just take solace in the fact that such acts are still anomalies, and despite what the media would have you believe, they are not getting worse or more frequent. Finally, dare I say, our friend Jessie is very typical statist of convenience. She admits herself that she lives in a peaceful area of the U.S. where gang violence isn't a thing, so she naively assumes that that must be the case everywhere, so she really doesn't see what all the fuss is about. Hence her rather staggering denial that most gun violence is committed by gangs. Well, let me try one last time to talk some sense into her on the off chance that she should bother to see this. Jessie, you say you shouldn't own a gun for protection and you should call the police? Never mind that the police can't be everywhere, and it's already too late for that if you're attacked on the street or your house is invaded. I ask you, go tell that to a black or Latino living in LA and see what kind of response you get. If you don't wish to own a gun, that's fine. Nobody said you had to. But you do not have the right to dictate that decision to others who may feel differently, especially those who do live under the threat of gangs and other dangers just because you think guns are scary and then try and pass that off as compassion. That is just self-centered, arrogant, and presumptuous. And even arguably sexist and racist too. Denying women one of the best equalizers they have against a mugger or a rapist, or dictating that minorities should be at the mercy of a police and justice system who very frequently bullies, targets, and discriminates against them? Disgraceful and outrageous is what that is. Now, some of you might be saying I'm being too hard on Jessie. After all, she's just repeating what her tenured ivory tower professor taught her. I blame her for being so inexcusably close-minded and turning the issue into a matter of choosing who lives and who dies based on numbers. They all have the right to live, and if she's really serious about saving lives, she would do well to put a little more thought into the matter than just give the government more money and more power, because yeah, that solved all our problems before, didn't it? And we all know how governments have a long history of using weapons responsibly, don't they? Yeah. Need I say more? Until next time, be aware and be wise.